Hey everyone, in today's video I wanted to show you how I did this blood design for Halloween. And if you guys like to see this type of tutorials, make sure that you subscribe because I'm going to be posting 2 more this week. The first thing I'm going to do is prep the nails and put the form. On this first nail, I'm going to be creating a French design. So that's the reason why I'm going to start using this pink acrylic. The first thing I'm going to do is create the base, which is this small almond. I'm going to try not to use very big beads of acrylic because I want this almond to be small. So now that I have this done, I'm going to take off the form and I'm going to start filing the sides because I want everything to be symmetrical. I feel like in this way, everything is going to look cleaner and prettier. So I'm going to put the form back and I'm going to finish up making this French nail by applying this white acrylic. And like you guys can tell, these nails are going to be pretty long. They're going to be over XL size. And to do this, I'm just going to keep applying these beads and I'm going to use my brush. I'm going to do little taps on it until it's the shape that I like. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this white acrylic on top of the pink almond because I feel like in this way the nail is going to be stronger and it's going to have less chances of actually breaking. Know that it looks a little bit weird, but once we start filing it, it's going to look clean. And of course, I'm going to apply some pressure on the sides just like I always do because I feel like the nails look more natural this way. And now I'm going to move on to the second nail, and here it's going to be pretty simple. Basically, I'm going to make this acrylic nail like I would usually do. I'm going to put the first bead between the natural nail and the form, and slowly using my brush, I'm going to do little taps on it until I drag it downwards and I create this nail. Third nail, I'm also going to let it be simple, and since I'm doing coffin shaped nails, I'm going to close off the form a lot more than I would usually do, so it can be easier for me to create this shape. And just like I done earlier, I'm going to start applying the beads and I'm going to start creating this nail. A little tip that I have for you guys is to use the lines on the form as a guide. In this way, it's going to be much easier to create straight sides. And of course, I'm still going to apply some pressure on the sides just like I always do. And now moving on to the last nail for this tutorial. Here it's going to be like the first one. I'm going to be creating this French design. So I'm going to start by applying the form and creating the small almond using the pink acrylic. Remember that the sides have to be symmetrical and curvy. When you guys start filing the sides, make sure that you keep the form and that it's not ruined because we still have to apply it to finish up this nail. And now that it's filed, I'm going to put the form back and I'm going to make sure that it's symmetrical because I don't want this nail to end up being crooked. And just like I done earlier, I'm going to use this white acrylic and I'm going to keep applying beads until I create this coffin nail. Sure that you cover well the sides because otherwise what can happen is that this nail can end up breaking. To finish up, I'm going to apply some pressure on the sides. And this is how these acrylic nails look like. Like you guys can tell, they don't look perfect, but that's why filing is so important. When I file nails, I like to start by filing the sides. And here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try to follow the natural shape that the coffin has. This is how the nails look like after filing the sides. Now they look a lot more sharp. And the last thing to do is to file the surface. I'm going to be using my e-file for that. And I'm going to make sure that the French nails end up looking clean. And also if there's any bumps left behind, I'm going to file them. And this is how the nails look like after being filed. Now we can go ahead and start the design. For a start, I'm going to clean up these nails because after filing, there's always going to be some dust left behind. And the way that I'm going to create the blood is that I'm going to be mixing a little bit of this transparent gel as well as a little bit of this red gel paint. And I'm gonna use the dotting tool because it's going to make the whole process way easier for me. And what I'm going to be doing is that I'm gonna be creating basically drops. And the way that I did this is that I'm gonna grab a little bit of this mixture and I'm gonna put most of it on one dot, and then I'm gonna use the dotting tool and I'm gonna push it upwards. What you have to make sure is that most of the product stays on that dot, and then you have to push it upwards until it gets near the pink almond. I feel like in this way the drop ends up looking a lot more realistic, because otherwise what can happen is that everything can end up looking the same. And like you guys can tell, I'm only going to be adding it on the white part of the French nail. And now that I have that done, I'm going to finish up by following the curved line that the pink almond has. This second nail is going to be the most simple, because here all I'm going to do is create a bunch of drops. And I'm going to be doing it the same way that I told you. I'm going to be making a dot where I'm going to be putting most of the product, and then I'm going to push the rest up near the cuticle. I think that one of the most important parts of doing this design is that we have to make sure that the drops kind of have different sizes. I feel like in this way it's going to look more realistic. The way that I do this is that first I create the bigger drops, and then once I have that done, I fill up what's left behind with some smaller ones. Remember that we're using gel, so once I'm done, I'm going to be curing it for 60 seconds. And then I'm going to be adding a little bit of this gel on top near the cuticle, so it can look a little bit more realistic. And this is how this second nail looks like. I think it's one of my favorites. It's like you guys can tell, it's pretty simple because all I did is add drops. But I think that it looks really good. Now onto the third one here. What I'm going to do is something a little bit different, because I'm going to start by creating this tape. And like you guys can tell, I'm using yellow gel paint as well as this thin nail art brush. And now that I have that done, I'm going to go over it with a little bit of black gel paint to make it stand out even more. And now that I have this done, I'm gonna write keep out, but you guys can write whatever you want. It doesn't really matter because we're still gonna add a little bit of this gel on top. And now that I have this done, I'm gonna start doing the drops, and just like I told you earlier, I'm gonna be doing the bigger drops first. And also, I'm going to be adding a little bit of this gel over the tape that I created. It's gonna go all the way up until the black line. Also, when you guys do this, what I recommend you is to keep curing each drop as you go on, because remember, this is gel. So what can happen is that everything can end up mixing. And this is how this third nail looks like. Now I'm gonna move on and do the last one for this tutorial. This one is going to be pretty much like the first one. Remember that I'm going to do the bigger drops first, and how I do this is that I put most of the product on this dot, and then I push it upwards until it gets near the pink almond. And then I'm gonna move on and do the tiny ones. Now that I have the drops done, I'm gonna go over the curved line that the French nail has, so it can look a little bit more realistic, just like the first nail. Remember to cure everything for about 60 seconds, and this is how the final design looks like. I hope that you guys like this blood tutorial. I think it's pretty simple, but I love creating 3D details with gel. I think that it ends up looking very realistic and really cool. I hope that you guys like this tutorial. If you did, please subscribe and like this video, because I'm going to be posting a lot more. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!